Hello guys, so I've got another lawnmower here today. This is a Craftsman, I don't remember if these are Gold Series or the Silver Series or whatever the hell Sears calls them nowadays. But this is a fairly new lawnmower. It's definitely within the past 5 or 7 years. And I still call these new because it's, the new style that they have out now. Though they did just update their whole line not that long ago, but this is still a fairly new style. Now, I had one of you guys ask me a while ago, and I'm humbly apologize, but I forget your YouTube username. But you asked me what I normally do when I sort out a lawnmower, when I acquire one, and you asked me though something along the lines of how I determine the lawnmower's value, how I go and fix everything and determine what it needs, and it's really a pretty simple process. This lawnmower in this area, in fully working condition, is worth about 120 bucks. That's because it's newer. It's because it's a Craftsman. It's a well-known brand, and even though these are pretty much the same thing that you can buy at Lowe's or Home Depot under the MTD line, people recognize the Craftsman name, and they are good mowers. I'll give them that much. Really, any lawnmower is good. There's only really a couple different motor styles that I don't really particularly care for, but at the end of the day, pretty much any lawnmower made within the past 10 years, as long as it's been maintained properly, you're not really going to have any major issues with them. Any lawnmower that cuts grass, in my opinion, is a good lawnmower. Anything that does its job as it was intended is more than fine with me. I got this lawnmower in on a trade. I sold that red Craftsman self-propelled lawnmower today. This is one thing that you guys can do if you're looking into getting into lawnmower and small engine repair, and it helps out everybody. I offer, my prices are fairly firm unless I decide to drop them. It depends 100% on what I'm selling and what it's actually worth, but on any old regular push mower, I'm pretty firm on the price. I don't really come down all that much. The only time that I do come down for people is if they bring me a lawnmower as a trade-in. And then, then I can easily justify dropping the price a little bit on the one that I'm selling them in exchange for, their old broken one. Now this helps them out because you can't really throw a lawnmower in a garbage can with, too much ease. And it keeps my inventory fresh. It's something that I've done for years, and it's worked out just fantastic for me. And if you guys are looking into, getting into small engine repair and doing what I'm doing, then I definitely recommend it. It's a very easy thing to do, and any lawnmower that I sell, I always put that in the ad. Bring me your old one for a reduction in price, running or not. It doesn't matter. Probably about 60, maybe 70% of the time, I do get another lawnmower in on trade. Now, some of those mowers aren't all that great. Some of them actually are broken beyond repair. Some of them people actually just give me for free because they just don't even want them, and they don't really care to try and barter with me over it. They just want it out of their garage or out of the side of their house. You guys know how that goes. These things do take up a good amount of space. In the instance with this lawnmower, the guy brought it to me. I base most of what I do with the trade-in on cosmetic. Cosmetic is a big selling point. If anything, if there's any rust in the deck or there's wheels missing, there's just cosmetic issues with the lawnmower. It makes it harder for me to sell, and I have to drop the price a little bit on them in order to get them sold. Now that said, when somebody brings me a lawnmower like this, I already know off the bat that I'm going to deduct a certain amount of money because it's got plenty of good parts on it. For example, if this motor was shot, these Briggs & Stratton motors are so common and they're used on so many other lawnmowers that I can just swap another motor on it and swap the plastics from this one, like the red part that is, pretty much exclusive to Craftsman Sears lawnmowers, and, all the other plastic pieces, and I can swap that onto another motor and nobody's the wiser. So it works out great in that regard. But the main things that I look at a lawnmower, first off, is general condition. This lawnmower is in very good shape. There's no significant damage anywhere, or really any damage for that matter to begin with. The wheel risers here have a little bit of rust on them. They're probably going to need to be lubed up. That's no big deal. The blade control cable is kinked, though it does still work. I will be replacing this though, because I have, I don't know how many of these things on hand, and I think I actually just bought another one, kind of on accident. So I believe I have a brand new one to swap onto this thing as well. Now, after I look at the cosmetics, the very next thing I look at is, does the lawnmower have compression? And how you can tell that, push your handle down and just give it a couple pulls. And if it has a lot of resistance on the pull cord, that means it's definitely got compression. This one feels really good. So we've decided that it's got compression and it's worth pursuing further. Now the next thing you do is tip the lawnmower over, disconnect your spark plug, and check the blade. Check it over for any damage, any bends, any weird, shapes or anything like that, because that can tell you if your flywheel key is likely bent or not. If there's a lot of damage to the underside of a lawnmower, particularly the blade, and it looks like it's bent or just damaged, or chunks are taken out of it, and it definitely looks recent, then it's really worth at least, assuming that the flywheel key is sheared. But the next thing you want to check is your crankshaft. And how you check if these things are bent or not, with your spark plug unhooked from the wire, just go ahead and turn the blade. And as you're turning it, watch the end of the bolt. And if it's bent, it's going to kind of wobble back and forth like that. Sometimes it's not very significant, so just do it a few times over and over again, and generally you can tell if the crankshaft is bent or not. Now if the crankshaft is bent, unfortunately it's not really worth pursuing any further as far as giving the guy more money for the trade-in. You also want to make sure to point that out to them, that it's doing that. And people are always very understanding of that. I've never had an issue with anybody where they've been upset with how much I've wanted to give them on a trade. Normally I do give them a fair price, but you have to remember, especially depending on where you're located, you might not have as good of a market as I do on selling used lawnmowers. Some of you guys have reported in saying that, any lawnmower like this in perfect running condition on the used market runs about $60, $70. So you really want to make sure that, whatever you give the guy off of your trade is worth it for you financially, because it can get really expensive really fast depending on what you do and what you have on hand already. And you really want to stay as positive as much as possible. Of course, you guys should definitely, be able to understand that just fine. So with this lawnmower, we've determined that the blade is fine. There's no damage to it. The crankshaft is straight as far as we're concerned at this point in time, and it's got compression. Now this lawnmower does still have gas in it. So the guy told me, and everybody's typically pretty honest with me, but he told me that it just stopped working. So I'm pretty sure it's a carburetor issue. Most of the time it is. And I've been working on these things long enough to know that old gas, especially this crap we get here in California, which they blend with ethanol, I don't know how many of you guys have to deal with that where you guys live. The ethanol coupled with gas inside of a small engine carburetor just gums everything up, and if it's left there unattended, that's what it does. I try to tell people that I sell lawnmowers onto, and this is another thing that kind of helps out, your customer, your buyer, or whatever you want to call them, is you want to give them hints and tips on how to make sure their equipment stays running correctly. Most people that I've talked to, they are very receptive of, learning how to take care of their stuff. And some of them have struck up conversations with me on, what they should do, what kind of oil they should use, where they should get parts, this and that. And people are very, very happy when I go through the ropes and tell them, how to look after their stuff and at least make sure that whatever they buy from me anyways, will last them. You know, one of the things that I commonly tell people is if you can, leave your lawnmower in a garage or at the very least your back patio or porch, and keep it out of the rain, because rain and water, when it gets into the fuel system, that can cause no starting issues as well. A lot of these new mowers, this one in particular, are sealed up pretty well. So you're not necessarily going to have that issue, you know, after 1 or 2 rains. You might, but more often than not, it'll be okay. But you have to be careful because some of the gas caps are vented on the older lawnmowers, and they've got a hole, maybe a couple holes in the gas cap, and rainwater will go through there and it will go into the gas tank and spoil the gas. So, as I said, people love, you know, hints and tips on how to keep their stuff running correctly, and it makes you look better in their eyes as, you know, them wanting to do business with you again. I've actually had several repeat customers over the years that have bought lawnmowers from me and saved my number. And, you know, I've had a couple guys that I've serviced their stuff for them. I've had people come back and say, hey, I need to winterize my lawnmower, or I need to have it serviced for the spring. And, you know, I always give them a good deal. There is another end of the coin, and this definitely works better for you guys if you're trying to do what I'm doing, and that's having parts on hand. Any lawnmower that I get rid of, I don't get rid of them unless I absolutely have to. You know, the deck is either trashed or the transmission in it is blown if it's self-propelled. But generally, I keep old, good motors, or at least motors with good parts on them. This Honda motor is blown, but there is very many good parts on it that are still usable, including this gas tank. In my area, gas tanks, especially this style, like to separate at these seams because of the heat. People leave their stuff outside. I've also seen them crack up here along the side, along the top of the gas tank, and you know, I've seen people try and glue that back down, but it never holds. So gas tanks are another thing that I always go out of my way to salvage. When I salvage parts off lawnmowers, I take pretty much everything. I take the wheels, I take the blade control cables, the recoils, the carburetors, the air filter boxes, the gas tanks, throttle controls. You know, you name it, I keep it. I salvage that stuff. Reason being, this is the stuff that's going to nickel and dime you to death. A gas tank is going to run you about $30 to $40 depending on where you buy one, if you buy one brand new. The recoil starters, these things run around in that same ballpark. The air filter boxes and, you know, housings, those run about, you know, $15, $20 depending on where you buy them. So it really behooves you guys to try and keep as many parts as you can on hand, because that really helps out with, you know, when you can decide on whether or not you want to save a lawnmower or not. Because as I mentioned earlier, there really isn't a whole hell of a lot of value in these things, and replacing a gas tank, let's assume that this gas tank is, you know, cracked and it's no good anymore. The air filter box is messed up significantly and warped. The exhaust might be rusted out, which even here in California, I have seen that before. You're looking at about $60 to $80 worth of parts had you bought all that stuff brand new. And that's not even counting tune-up parts, because there are times when even I've had to buy a brand new carburetor because I didn't already have one on hand. Another thing that I want to mention is I keep a box of consumable items. You know, carburetors, which I don't have any room for in my box for this one, but I keep carburetors on hand. I keep primer bulbs. I keep, you know, diaphragms, which I just ordered some more of the side shaft style off of Amazon. Spark plugs, you know, I got a ton of them. I even got a couple two-stroke carburetors in here as well, just in case. Primer bulbs, as I mentioned, I've got a ton of these. I've got both of the style with the hole and the red style there without the hole. I also keep gas caps, because gas caps do fail around here. The seals in them wear out and they can cause starting issues, believe it or not. So I always keep gas caps as well. I keep plenty of fuel line on hand, which I do need to order some more. But if a fuel line is good, a good used fuel line, like this one, still decent, that saves you money too. I've also got, you know, a few two-stroke gaskets here, bull gaskets. I think these are for Tecumsehs, but I do have the bottom bolt gaskets as well. And I've got carburetor parts in there, a couple extra bowls. I've got carburetor rebuild kits, got a few of these. And the best way to buy consumable items, like any of the stuff that's in here, minus maybe the carburetors, is off of Amazon. Amazon, eBay. I've been able to get really good deals on stuff buying them in bulk off of eBay, especially eBay. Amazon's okay. I've bought plenty of stuff from them. So that also helps you guys save money if you really want to get into doing this. Now the other side is I have my own personal lawnmower junkyard, which I need to bring this one back over there as well. So this is my personal lawnmower junkyard. I keep parts out here, well, I keep complete mowers out here, probably mainly because I don't have the room to, or the time for that matter, in stripping them all down for parts. That's another thing you're going to have to look at as well. I've got, you know, spare motors out here. I've got a, you know, another side shaft motor out here. And I've just got all sorts of parts from pretty much every major brand out here, minus Hondas. I don't really get too many Hondas because, knock on wood, they're pretty good lawnmowers. Not to say that these aren't, but these are a lot more common, they're a lot cheaper. So that's another way that I save money as well, is by keeping plenty of stuff like this on hand. So in the event that I don't have anything on the shelf, I can just come out here, which I've done many different times, and pulled parts off the stuff out here. So that's another way you save money as well. And if needed, I've got plenty of wheels out here as well. In fact, this lawnmower up here, I've taken wheels off because they were the same style on other lawnmowers that I've fixed. This motor is blown, the connecting rod's shot, but that deck is still good if I wanted to pursue, you know, putting another motor on this deck and getting it going again, because I do have all the parts to do that. And as I mentioned earlier, there have been times when I've gotten lawnmowers in where the deck is fine, the bag is fine. I'm just using this one as an example because this one is cracked right there, so I would not sell this deck on to anybody else. But there are times when I've gotten lawnmowers in where the motor's shot, but the deck is in near perfect condition, and same with the bag. So that's another good thing as well. I've swapped motors from, you know, Troy-Bilts to Craftsman's to, you know, any other MTD brand. It's not a big deal. But as you guys can see, and as I told you earlier, the MTD brand is a very common lawnmower for this area. Sears, Boland's, Yardman, Yard Machines, they're all pretty much the same thing. They use the same exact deck. So that's another thing you guys can do as well if you've got the space to do it. Now, determining a lawnmower's value, you have to go onto your Craigslist or Kijiji or whatever you use and see what everybody else is selling them for. Generally, the prices in my area stay, you know, pretty flat. They don't really go up or go down all that much. But you have to determine, you know, what a similar lawnmower is selling for. And at the end of the day, the market's going to decide whether it's worth that much money or not. I could turn around and sell this thing for $80 and it'll be gone within a few hours. Or I could sell it at, you know, what it's valued at, about $120, and it'll be gone, you know, in maybe a couple days at the most. But they still sell pretty quickly this time of year. That's another thing you guys need to take into consideration, is if you have a lot of snow during the wintertime and not much grass, well, you're not really going to be able to sell a lawnmower all that easy compared to springtime. For me, it's pretty much year-round you can sell lawnmowers and not really have any issues. Now, I've said this in other videos, but lawnmowers that don't include the bag or can't even accept a bag, the value on those in this area is significantly lower than ones with the bag. So you have to roll that into effect too. Any lawnmower around here without the bag is going to, depending on condition, it's going to sell for anywhere from $50 to maybe $70. There have been times where I've swapped motors off of, you know, decks like that couldn't accept a bag to other lawnmowers, or other decks rather, that did have a perfectly fine bag with them, and that boosts the value of them significantly. Anyways, I hope you guys enjoyed this video. If you've got any questions or comments, be sure to leave them. I've been doing this now since about late 2008, early 2009, just as an extra source of income. And because I love doing it, it's definitely a hobby of mine. I've met a lot of cool people off Craigslist, you know, selling stuff to them. Met a few idiots. That'll be another video for another day on how to deal with Craigslist idiots specifically and how to more or less avoid them. So you guys can look for that one as well. I think I'll title that one How to Handle People on Craigslist or something like that. But anyways, so I'm going to go through and make another video on this, me troubleshooting it and, you know, cleaning the carburetor out more than likely, and hopefully getting it running again. So you guys stay classy and enjoy your day.